Okay, hi. I'm really excited about this next video that we're doing. I'm sitting here all cozy on my couch because this is going to be a video where I just want to be comfortable talking to you guys. I asked you all, what are some of the things that you want to see on my YouTube channel? And one of the most common things I got, and one of the most common things I always get, is that we want to know more about your story. Like, okay, cool, you're no bread, you're gluten-free. How'd you find out you were gluten intolerant? How were you diagnosed celiac? What was your biggest symptom? What was the biggest change for you? How did no bread start? So, you know, a lot of my videos on YouTube are going to be very like interactive, like me and a friend cooking something, or Q&A, or like a day in my life. But I also want to do some videos where I can just tell you what's up. And this is gonna be one of them. So sit back, relax if you haven't already. I'm clearly relaxed and chilling at my house. I'm like so fidgety. I don't know how to like get comfortable. Like, I might be like this for a second. Just check myself out. It's weird. I don't like, for how public I've made my life in terms of talking about being gluten-free and all that stuff, I like don't like to talk about my personal life. And as I tell this story, you're gonna see why I've kind of blacked out a part of my life. I genuinely, if you ask me to recall a certain time in my life, like I don't really remember it because it wasn't a good time for me. And I won't say all the time. I went to an Ivy League. We were taught not to do that. Further ado, this is going to be part one. This is going to be my backstory, who the hell am I, and my journey to discovering that I'm gluten-free. Let's start with baby Nicole. Baby Nicole, I'm a middle child, if you haven't been able to tell. And I grew up, I have an older brother, a younger sister. I grew up the pickiest eater. I was queen of chicken fingers and french fries. My family would be eating something like gourmet and nice, and I would be like, sweet, chicken fingers, french fries, ketchup. I had a very gluten-filled diet. Actually, so literally this is a day in the life. You've seen now day in the life videos of what I eat, but here's a day in the life of Nicole, age 5. Wake up, chocolate croissant. Have you ever had a chocolate croissant? And if you grew up in Manhasset, oh man, what was the name of that bagel store? It was like Broadway Bagels or something. It wasn't even like the good bagel store in town, but it had the most dope chocolate croissant ever. So I'd have this chocolate croissant. For snack, I was healthy and I'd have a Nature Valley bar. Loved that maple one, absurd. Lunch, I was again so healthy, whole wheat wrap, again more gluten. And dinner, I was like pasta, again probably just more chicken fingers, meatballs. I was really freaking normal. I also didn't overdo. I think the issue nowadays, and this is just like a total tangent, is that because we're trying to be healthy and we deprive of ourselves of having certain things, when we do have them, we go to town. Back then I was like, oh, I just want 2 meatballs. Now I'm like, give me 6. So I was a very normal eater, but yeah, gluten and dairy were a staple in every part of my diet, for sure, and snack and everything. And because I was naturally small, I didn't really have to diet, and I was very athletic and I was playing sports all the time, so especially I was going to pasta parties all the time, and I'd load up on penne al vodka, Gino's pizza, penne alla vodka, and pizza bread. That's what I ate for dinner all the time, and I would have like my parents recreate that meal. Anywho, I'm like reminiscing about gluten. So, but yeah, my life sounds pretty dope, but I was always sick. I would have the flu probably twice a year. I would have strep throat at least 3 or 4 times a year. Just always something wrong. My throat was always sore. I didn't sleep well. Always the first person to get sick. If I got sick and I was throwing up, like stomach virus sick, it wasn't just throw up once, feel better. Migraine, take a nap, feel better. Migraine, it was like shut the lights off, block the curtains. If I see light, I'll scream. If I threw up, my favorite line is my parents would always say, like, I remember my mom being on the phone with my pediatrician when I was younger, and her saying to him, you know, Nicole's sick, describing my symptoms. Yeah, she's throwing up. And the doctor must have said like, oh, you know, it'll pass, like 24-hour virus. And I just remember my mom saying, this isn't just someone throwing up, this is the exorcist. And that was me. If I threw up once, I threw up 24 times over 24 hours. That would be my 24-hour virus. So I was just always so sick. I'd wake up in the middle of the night, be rushed to the hospital thinking I had appendicitis, I'd be doubled over in pain. But because this new world of medicine wasn't a thing back then and food intolerances wasn't a thing, no one knew what to diagnose me with. I was just like a sick kid. Anywho, I've accepted my life of being sick. Everything, you know, was fine because on the surface, I was fit. I was able to play the sports that I was playing. I was happy. I was, you know, yeah, I would get like sick for a second, but cool, I missed school. And then everything started to hit a head when I went to college. Okay, so you're going from eating home cooked meals all the time to like living the dorm life. And freshman year, totally did not eat well. Freshman 15, fact, I gained it. If you don't believe me, call my parents, literally. I remember coming home, everyone just being like, all right, let's get that diet in check, huh? And I would go to the Cornell's dining hall. They were known, and this is, you know, why it became such a thing, was because Cornell is the school, like they're king of dairy farms. And I would go and make for dinner on like a Tuesday, not even like drunk, like just sober. I'd make my own waffle for dinner and pour the ice cream sundae thing on top. I was like free and living on my own, whatever. Gluten, dairy, and not even good gluten and dairy. As I was in college and of course drinking more and not sleeping enough and eating like pure shit, I definitely kept getting sicker and sicker. Like I had mono freshman year, I had this, I had that. Like me and the emergency care people were like first name basis. And then come second year, I'm living in my sorority house in the basement, which was so it was a huge house. There was 45 of us who lived in it. And because, you know, wild Nicole back then thought it'd be fun to live in the basement, which was the party rooms. And I lived in the quad, which was the party room, you know, not plural, like the one. It was like moldy as hell, literally underground dungeon. I was really fucking sick all year and in and out of the hospital, and this all came to a head the end of my sophomore year. It got to the point where I was so sick. I was probably not even visiting like the on-campus emergency thing. I was being rushed to the emergency room of Ithaca. I went to school, I went to Cornell. So it's in the town of Ithaca. I'd be at like the Ithaca hospital and my mom would have to come up. So now this is May, because that's when finals are, and I was quarantined in my sorority house, taken out of the quad, put in a single on the top floor, which is like a visitor's room, for 2 weeks because I was so sick. I would literally just, it got to the point I was just waking up, throwing up. There's 1 week, honestly, I don't even know how small I was. So this starts the time where I start to black out my life. It's a weird thing for me to talk about this. I just like felt myself get like emotional because yeah, I blacked out this period of my life. So yeah, I threw up my entire system for like 2 weeks straight. And finally I'm like better. I think my body just had nothing else to throw up. My mom comes up because she's now staying in a hotel in Ithaca while I get better in my quarantined room. Finally, I'm able to eat. So what do you do when you've been so sick for so long and you are finally able to eat again? The Ithaca State Street Diner, that's what you're called. I ordered like pancakes, bagels, just carb loaded, because that's the only thing I could eat. Also, here's a fun fact too. I would drink, as college kids do, I drink vodka, rum. I was queen of rum, like 100 proof captain. Party Nicole, again. And I would drink and I'd be fine. But if I had one sip of a beer, the next day my hangover would be so severe. Again, I'd be throwing up all morning. And what do you do when you're hungover? You eat bagels, you eat bread. So, you know, I'm drinking gluten and having gluten to make me feel better. Now I understand why beer always made me so sick. But I naturally, over that time, I knew, it's so weird how your subconscious works. I knew by like my early freshman year of college when I first started drinking. I only started drinking like senior year of high school. I knew instantly, me and beer don't get along. And with people be like, oh, you're not drinking beer, like you're like not cool, like peer pressure. And I'd be like, I just don't like it. Like I don't like beer. I would literally show up to parties with my own handle of like Absolute vodka that maybe stole from my parents. But I always knew right away that there was something in beer, so it makes sense. But yeah, if I had a beer, I would be debilitatedly hungover the next day, even if it was just one sip, but I could go be like tequila drunk and be fine. So again, listen to your body even when it comes to booze. you can take anything away from this video, take that away. I am now quarantined, I'm eating gluten, whatever. I got through my finals, because it's the end of May, and that was hard. I had to take finals at home. I missed a lot of exams. I had to do papers instead. That's how sick I was. Like, I was so damn sick. I come back home to Long Island for the summer. I have a great internship lined up at Thomson Reuters. I'm doing the whole finance thing. And one day I go to work at Thomson Reuters, 9 to 5, super chill. Go to work, leaving that night, and I go and I'm like, you know what, I'm in the mood for a salad. So I go to Penn State, on my way home, taking the train from Penn Station to Long Island, where I grew up, and I grab a salad made at one of those like little kiosks in Penn Station. That night, oh, and this was my go-to salad. When you start to like pull on things and you remember things, it's so interesting what you remember. So I ordered romaine, carrots, broccoli, a little bit of onion, chicken, sesame, ginger. Boom, mic drop, that was my salad, without fail. I order it and I go home, I'm eating with my family, and I get a few hives on my arm. And I was like, that's weird. Then like my arm like kind of like broke out in hives, and I was like, oh, what the fuck? Excuse my language, sorry. I curse a lot. Sorry. I was like, this is so weird. I was like, you know what? Screw this. Last time I buy a salad from Penn Station, like at least buy one at Cozy's or, you know, somewhere on the way home. So I blame it on that, pop a few Benadryl, go to bed, wake up, you know. I remember one time my brother randomly broke out in hives after having some weird ice cream, and I remember it kind of like lingered lasting effects till that next day. So the hives were still there, not bothering me. So it's like, oh, they'll go away by tonight. I go to work, I'm like telling my girlfriends, like, look at this outbreak, like weird shit. And I've had my breakfast, I've had my Nature Valley bar snack. I kept literally just boxes of Nature Valley bars at work. And I'm having a piece of gum and I'm chewing peppermint gum. I hate peppermint, always have, always will. Again, now like another spot on my body. Originally it was here, and then I think it was like the other arm started breaking out in hives. I was like, damn it, like, why isn't this stuff out of my system? You know what? It's the peppermint gum. I had this same gum yesterday. Like, oh, blame it on gum. Basically, I don't want to drag this story on forever, but over the course of that next week, the hives kept coming and coming, and I would just blame a different food group. I'd be like, oh, you know what? This. And then my friends at work were like, oh, what are you blaming today, Nicole? And I was like, okay, like something's so strange. So I go to my allergist, I go to my doctor. Basically, over the course of that week and then few weeks, every day my body broke out in more and more hives, to the point that I had full body hives. Chronic, itchy hives. The only thing that chilled those hives out was when I would be on Benadryl, be on Claritin, Zyrtec, like all the things. So basically when I went to my allergist, they're like, oh, it's her non-allergic rhinitis. Made up disease, sickness. And it got to the point where I was on a 2-hour rotation of all of these antihistamines and antibiotics. My parents are superheroes. We literally call my dad Superman. It's his nickname, and my mom has become Superwoman. They love the show House, throwback. I didn't really watch it, but that was their show. And they were like, you're an episode of House. Like, what is going on? I didn't sleep at night. I would just be up scratching. Imagine that feeling when you have one bug bite. Imagine having a million bug bites all over your whole body. Just scratching. And this is the part I've blacked out. I'm gonna say this again, because I don't like to be personal. I'll probably start bawling if I think about it anymore. Like, I remember the physical act of like laying in bed sleeping and just scratching. And I don't even really remember what the hives look like. I have like a rough visual. I'm just like picturing myself back then. I mean, that was like a really miserable time in my life. And I would wake up and I would go to work, which is probably a good thing because that was distracting me. Like I had to go do something. I couldn't just dwell on my problems. And it was a really important internship and I was trying to prove myself. And I didn't want anyone to think there's anything wrong with me. So my parents took it upon themselves. They're like, because it got to the point where I was like, I'm completely debilitated, weak, awful. I'm in hell. I can't go back to school. This is hell. Now I'm really sick again with hives, and I'm getting more antibiotics that keep shattering my immune system as I'm eating gluten and just taking antihistamines, which are just masking the problem. And my parents took it upon themselves, and my mom, I remember just being on her computer all day, every day, and we're like, we're gonna find someone who's gonna get to the bottom of this. And that is where we found, my mom found a homeopathic doctor. I lived in a town about 30 minutes outside the city, 40 minutes, and this is on a town called Northport on the east end of Long Island, so about an hour away from my house. Found this homeopathic doctor. We walk in for our first meeting. We've heard great things, and he looks at me and he goes, okay, so he got all of my blood tests over he wanted every chart from every doctor that I have ever touched, communicated with, spoken to in my entire life. He gave him every record, and he looks at me and he goes, and I'm sitting, so it's a small room, and he has like the patient bed, and then I'm sitting in a chair, my mom's sitting in a chair, and he's sitting on the patient bed looking at us in a really small room. And he goes, okay, starting today, you are gluten, dairy, and soy-free, as well as nut-free, as well as sugar-free, fruit gone, and anything containing artificial preservatives. And I just looked at him like, I just remember like staring at him, and I just put my head down like about to cry. It's like I'm not reminiscing about how I was about to cry, I'm like actually about to cry because I don't talk about this. I just remember going like this and just sobbing. Because first of all, I didn't even know what it meant. So I was like, gluten, so like that whole wheat wrap, like can I have that? It's the first time I've ever actually like spoken about this since all that. So I was like, okay, well, I eat like a croissant. He was like, no bread. So I was like, no bread, like no pasta, no pizza, no this, no that, like no what the hell is gluten? Okay, no dairy, so like no cheese, no bagels and cheese. That was like one of my favorite lunches, bagel and cheese. No this, no that, and I was like, what am I going to eat? He gave us a little book that was like a dining guide, and it was like, basically, this book was brilliant. It said every brand that you could think of. So it'd be like General Mills, Cheerios, Rice Chex, whatever, and it would list the gluten-free brand. So I would like take that to the grocery store with me and I would go shopping. So I left just like complete hysterics. I was like, you know what, like, and this is something about me is that if I do something, and this is how sick I was, like if I do this, I'm not gonna, cause you know, I was thinking about, okay, like let's say this is 100% of my diet is gluten, dairy, soy, sugar, fruit, all those things. If I just cut back to 50%, I'll still at least get a little better, but I was so sick that I just wanted to get 100% better. So I went cold turkey. Over the course of that summer, so I remember my breakfast the next morning, my mom and I went straight to the grocery store, we bought gluten-free bread, which was just 100% rice bread, it was so bad. And so that next morning I had all these, I just had like a full ass plate of egg whites. Had never had those before. Egg whites. Yes, it was the first time I was having egg whites, and gluten-free toast. And then for lunch, I would just eat like a steamed turkey burger and steamed broccoli, and just everything was steamed because we're also doing like oil-free too. So yeah, over the course of the summer, that was my diet. And I was already small, I'm a small person. Imagine me minus 10 to 15 pounds. My like chest bones were sticking out, and people were, and I'm a very, again, private person, so I don't like to tell people what goes on with me. So I didn't really tell anyone what was going on with me. And I go back to school and people are saying like, oh, and so I was able to go back to school in time because we're now diagnosing all this in June. Thankfully I had 2 months of being a hermit, getting better, learning how to cook, learning how to diet, just so I could go back to school my junior year. And I go back to school and people are like, is she anorexic? She's doing drugs, she's bulimic, all this stuff. And I was like, no, like, you know, I didn't choose this disorder. This is like a God-given disorder and I'm gonna make the most of it, but it was so hurtful that all these rumors were happening, but I didn't wanna tell people that it wasn't their business. In that time, I did find vegetable roll sushi, which I freaking love. So I found new things, and by the end of the summer, I was actually super chill with my like steamed turkey burgers and like learned to love broccoli. Like, yes, saute is in a certain way and it's great. So this is all June, Hives every day. Within like 2 weeks, no, within a few weeks, the Hives started to chill out a bit. Oh, and also, when he said you're gluten-free, dairy-free, soy-free, all these things free, he also said, and starting today, I was on like birth control, meh, no birth control. Oh, all those drugs you're taking that are getting you through the night, don't touch a single one of those ever again. So obviously that was hell for those first 2 weeks, because the only thing that was getting me to sleep through the night were all these drugs. And I couldn't take them anymore. But you know, I think birth control is the devil, and all these things I was saying are the devil. So it actually, you know, being off of those were hurting me more. So long story short, I'm even giving you the short version of it, is that's how I discovered my gluten allergy. Chronically sick my whole life. I was just looking desperately for answers. And now what's so interesting is that this is 10 years ago. And now all these things that are so cool and accepted, like acupuncture and kinesiology, muscle testing, having being spiritual and stuff, that's like cool now. Especially I live in LA, that's cool now. It wasn't cool when I was doing it. I was very made fun of for it. I didn't talk about it. I've been doing muscle testing and kinesiology for 10 years. I've been seeing my spiritual advisors for 10 years. I've been meditating before like the Calm app was cool, because I knew that that was what was going, like having a strong mind. I would tell myself, I would wake up every morning and be like, Nicole, you're fine. You're fine. They're not gonna come out today. They're not gonna come out. And I would go to work, and because I said that and believed it, they wouldn't come out. But yeah, life like sucked, and it got better and better, and that's ultimately the story of how I discovered gluten-free. One thing I will say, and then we'll save more for another time because I don't want to like bore you here, is that I was diagnosed with a gluten intolerance. I was not diagnosed with celiac disease. I was diagnosed with celiac later in life. Knew I had the gene for celiac. The only true way to diagnose celiac is by going under and like getting the test done. And I knew that if I was gonna live my life following the celiac diet, then why go be put under? I've had a bad experience with being put under when I was younger. I just like didn't need to. But in later years, I was formally diagnosed, and that's ultimately the story of how I went gluten-free. And also in that time when the doctor said gluten, dairy, soy-free, I was like, is this just a few weeks? Is it just a few days? And he was like, I don't know, maybe we'll reintroduce things. That's where I learned about the reintroduction diet. And to this day, I now have certain fruits in my diet. I have all nuts in my diet except for cashews. I just can't handle them. And sugar, you know, I have a sweet tooth, so that's back. I'm still to this day gluten-free, dairy-free, and soy-free, but that's ultimately how I figured it out. And you know, I'm really happy I'm doing this vlog. I did not expect to get that emotional earlier, but I do want to tell you more. And I think maybe one of the next things we can talk about is what it was like being gluten-free in college or at work, and you know, the best meals to make in college, and how being what I thought was going to be the worst diagnosis of my life turned into the biggest blessing in my life and my now career. I went into finance. I worked on Wall Street. I worked at JP Morgan, and I left because I became infatuated with this world of gluten-free and wanting to, if I had to suffer, I didn't want you guys to suffer. We'll talk about different aspects of gluten-free life and ultimately how I started No Bread. I think that will be super cool to talk about. And also, you know, now that I am No Bread, like what the hell I'm up to and what's next. So thank you guys for tuning in. This is a really cool experience talking about it. I'm glad I dug up a little part of my life that I've blacked out. Make sure you subscribe to the channel because, you know, there's a lot to talk about with you all. And today was a more serious video, but you know, I want us to have fun, and I'm gonna show you the best in gluten-free. That's why I started No Bread in the first place. So with that, please subscribe, watch more videos. Love you all. I'm out.